All right, America, welcome back. I am Rich Valdez, sitting in for the legendary John Tobacco, our good friend. He's out on the greens today, celebrating with friends and family, commemorating 9/11, as we are here in the studio. And I'm in New York City, 17 floors above Madison Square Garden. And I want to get into a conversation with a good patriot. He's a former speechwriter for President Bush and a policy analyst. He's got a lot to talk about with what's going on in sports. And honestly, I've been boycotting sports forever. I'm just not a sports guy, right?
Oh.
I'm a UFC guy. So I want to bring in Michael Johns into the conversation. Michael Johns, welcome to Liquid Lunch.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Pleasure to be with you. Yeah, I think, you look at today, obviously, we're, now commemorating the tragic events of 9/11. I lived in New York on 9/11, recall it every moment of that morning in detail. In fact, I was on the way to LaGuardia to fly to Atlanta, and that didn't happen. But you think about the recovery of the country, and which was incremental, slow, and for each individual, it kind of happened at a different pace. I mean, just like everyone's reaction was different. But one of those moments, I think, was seeing baseball return to New York City. There was the famous go-ahead home run by Mike Piazza with the Mets against the Braves when he came back. One of the great moments where a crowd sort of erupted, it almost in a sense of relief. You remember the end of October, George W. Bush throwing out the first pitch in the World Series on October 30th, 2001, which was another just iconic moment, I believe, in both in the history of symbolic patriotism, but also in the restoration of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, sports kind of navigated the American people back into some degree of restoration and normalcy. The concern, of course, is that sports has always been, I think, a unifying force in our country, a force for good. And it's been the sort of thing that people have gone to maybe to even escape the divisions in American politics. You now see evidence, really, at least in NFL, NBA, and even Major League Baseball, signs that there's three institutions that are pretty iconic that have been, essentially taken over by the left, where, commentary that is consistent with that agenda is not just welcome, but mandatory. And commentary and acts of symbolism that differentiate from it are silenced.
So I want to get, I guess, your opinion, because this is one that's all over the map with a lot of people. Some people say, hey, you know what? I don't care what these teams do or what political position they take. I'm still going to watch them. I'm not going to support them. I'm going to support them. What's your thought on not only how they've become so politicized, those in professional sports, but also the response from people saying, I'm done with sports, or those saying, you know what, we may disagree, but I'm still going to watch sports?
Yeah, I've certainly experienced it. I mean, with many people, as soon as Kaepernick took that knee in 2016, people who had followed the NFL closely their whole lives said, that's it, I'm done, I'm never returning. They didn't have 1 second of patience for that. I did. I didn't, and obviously been very critical of the approach that he's taken, but even more so, the fact that the league hasn't stood up and applied standards of acknowledgement for our flag and for the national anthem, which are reasonable. Plenty of room for every individual on their own initiatives to go do things in support of criminal justice and racial justice. And, for the most part, those are themes I think that all Americans support. And I think then incrementally, and particularly with what we've seen in this NBA playoff season, where even more controversially, this Jacob Blake incident in Kenosha has been so misinterpreted, and why would we expect to really understand it in ways that have alienated just fans permanently? So I do see there is a growing crisis in professional athletics.
And I guess, how do you, where do you fall on, are you still watching the games? Are you boycotting the games? Where do you see this going?
You know, the NFL is one of my great joys, and I'm going to watch the NFL this year. And I'm concerned with the direction that it's going. And I think it's important for fans to speak out. One of the reasons that we're, kind of losing the battle here is that those on the far left who aren't even really sports fans have put so much pressure on the leagues and on the teams. And we just don't seem to be quite as unified or as vocal on some of these issues. So I'm not going to let allow sports to be taken away. I'm going to defend them and got to come together and defend the country as well and make sure that they should maintain neutrality.
Okay. And with a minute to go, tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Tea Party movement.
Well, obviously, big victories. I mean, the country and the world have been changed by 2010 with the House victory, 2014 with the Senate victory, and in a lot of ways, the grassroots campaign of Donald Trump, the ability to run with concerns about the direction of the Republican Party on a grassroots basis, has given rise to it. Many who have came into the Tea Party movement now, including the Chief of Staff in the White House, Secretary of State, et cetera, political careers rose through the Tea Party movement. The movement is very aligned with this president and supportive of them. And I think you're seeing a lot of strategic initiatives, and not just the most obvious things, but kind of more into the grandeur detail of politics that are attempting to support, the president's reelection, which we're hoping for.
Got it. And I guess in a minute or less, let's wrap this up with telling us how to keep up with you, Michael Johns, what's next on the horizon for you, and what we can expect.
Hey, good. I guess the best way is on Twitter, my name, one word, Michael Johns, MichaelJohns. YouTube, same thing, my name, one word. And on Facebook, I'm Michael Johns Tea Party, and would welcome you follow me on any one of those.
Excellent. All right. Well, Michael Johns, thanks for being with us today on Liquid Lunch. Godspeed to you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Rich.
I'm Rich Valdez. You're watching Liquid Lunch. When we come back, Grover Norquist.